And yeah, I don't know where to say. Damn it. Hey everybody, this is Bacon Ninja, and welcome to a talking video, which I haven't done in a long time. I've been just flying and putting out edits, and if you remember back to the first video I made about some things I learned when I first started FPV, you might remember that I said, nobody cares about your flight edits. And I appreciate all of you out there who are watching my edits and commenting. It is way more than I expect. I have no expectations for those edits. They have been fun to make, and I am making them still just to track my progress in FPV. But outside of that, I think it's time for another talking video. I've been flying for almost 7 months now, and I think we should discuss some more things I've learned since I made the last video. So if this is your first time watching the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it greatly. But for reference, this is what it looked like when I first started flying FPV. And this is me today. In fact, it's a pack that I flew today. So just some little snips of my regular Saturday, today's Saturday, practice session. So you see I've made some progress. Now that progress is painfully slow and not something you can see every time you go out. And that's the first thing I want to talk about. You can't get discouraged just because you go out to fly and maybe you don't get the trick you planned on learning that day, or things just don't go your way and you crash your quad every other pack. That's just going to happen in FPV. And at this point I can say that's just part of this whole thing. You're going to crash and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where you wonder if you can even fly quads. I come out normally, my practice schedule for FPV, I fly Wednesdays after work. I actually take a couple of hours off of work to go fly. And then I try to fly Saturdays and Sundays. Not too long, no more than 2 hours each time so I can get back to my family. But I can tell you pretty frequently that Wednesday after work session, I am a terrible pilot. You know, I've been working all day and I'm mentally exhausted, and that session just does not go the way I envision it in my head. You know, sometimes the weather's bad, sometimes I just had a particularly terrible day at work. Those happen, but it definitely affects your pilot ability. So don't think because you have a few bad sessions, maybe even in a row, that you're not making progress. You are, because you're going to break that plateau if you just keep flying. And you're going to find that even the time you spent frustrated at how terrible you were that day is beneficial to your skills as an FPV pilot. So don't give up on it just because of a bad session. Push through. So I think what I'm actually going to do now is play you a little flight footage from my session today, because I had a lot of fun flying. It was, I'm not going to say a particularly good flight day for me, but it was decent. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that FPV footage in between these things we talk about. Here's a piece of that. Enjoy it. Alright, so the next thing we need to talk about is changing things up. I'm not going to tell you that you need to go buy as many quads as you can and try them all. That's not the kind of changing things up I think you should be doing. I actually watched a video by Murders FPV. Really good guy, great pilot, been flying about as long as I have. You should really go check out his channel. In fact, I will link that down in the description below. Go check him out and give him a sub. Great guy. Where he talked about changing it up with doing some simulator racing instead of just FPV freestyle all the time. I mean, you go out and fly real quads, maybe you sim real quads, and you do freestyle, but you just don't want to try racing. Maybe it doesn't appeal to you. Maybe you just don't think you'd be good at it. Anyway, he talked about doing a little bit of sim racing to up your freestyle game, and I totally agree with that guy. I have actually been doing quite a bit of sim racing lately. I qualified for the Weebleed FPV Whoop Racing Series 2, which is a 10-week simulator tiny whoop race. Actually, I did that the end of last month. So I've been doing a lot of racing lately, and I can tell you that just trying to hit gates, especially with tiny whoops where the gates are really complicated and there's things in an obstacle that you can't do with a big quad, has really helped my full-size 5-inch freestyle pilot ability in real life. It just does. If you're trying to get your quad to go through a gate the way you want it, you can get your quad to go between the trees the way you want it. And that is exactly what you're going to try to do with freestyle, so why not try some racing? It's not going to hurt you. Go get a sim. There's some free sims out there. Open up a course and try your hand at racing. It may help your freestyle skill. Thanks, Murders, for that tip. Can't thank you enough, buddy. Haven't picked up on it yet, it's kind of a theme of trying different things at this point. You know enough about FPV this far into it to kind of be dangerous. Like, you get the concept and you get how some things work, but you don't necessarily know how they're going to affect you if you try them. So one other thing on that topic is trying different styles. So today, in fact, I made a point to try some closer proximity, slower, flowy style flying. Along with, I did do a couple packs of my normal thing where, it's not quite spang, but it's also not quite smooth and flowy. But try things that are different. You find a pilot on the internet that has been putting out videos and they have a specific style. Go try some of their stuff. Take a look at how they're flying. Try to emulate a little bit and see what works best for you. I think this is the time to start finding your personal style of flying. It doesn't have to be like anybody else's. It can take bits of many different pilot style that you just happen to like, and you can put them together. It doesn't have to be identical to somebody else's flying style. It needs to be your own. That's kind of the point of FPV. It's like an art form. No two people are going to fly the line the same way, and that's exactly why I love this hobby. But try different things. I kind of developed this style that I've been flying lately with the snappy moves because I went to fly one day and I couldn't go to my regular spot, so I wound up at a place that had, well, you've probably seen it before if you've watched this channel. It's the metal building that's under construction, but that metal building, they had been doing some work to it and they hung a bunch of wires in it. And I'm running analog, so I wasn't comfortable flying through a bunch of wires. So I thought, man, I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm just going to fly in this cotton field. And when I did, I decided, hey, and the only way to make a cotton field interesting is to mix in a lot of snappy moves and rolls and things, something I normally hadn't done at that point. But I thought, I'm going to try it. So I did, and I kind of loved it. And I've been doing a lot of that lately. But what I've been missing out on now is proximity flying and low to the ground flying and close to trees flying. So I'm working on some of that too. And I think what I'm finding is a blend of the many things that I enjoy doing becoming my own style. And this is the time in your FPV pilot journey to find that. You can experiment now before you've got too many hours into one thing and you feel like you can't go backwards. So now is the time to try stuff, like that, different pilot styles. Now is the time to try those things. So go give it a shot. Next time you're out, split your packs up into 3 chunks and try 3 different styles. You might find something you really like. last thing I'm going to talk about is buying things in FPV. I think some of us get into FPV and immediately think we need everything, like the highest quality of everything possible. We have to have it now or we can't possibly be a good pilot. I'm going to tell you that's a lie. You can absolutely be a great pilot on gear that costs a quarter of what some of the high-end stuff costs. Now, I am going to say that some of the higher-end gear gives you a little bit more of an advantage. That's not a lie. Some of that nice stuff gives you a little more advantage to get where you want to go. But you can absolutely do it with lower-end gear. I still fly a TX12, which is not a super low-end radio, but it's also not a super high-end radio. I just put some 533 ripsticks on it, and I fly the thing. It doesn't have Hall effect gimbals. I have Express LRS in it, but I'm running the cheapest Express LRS transmitter possible from Happy Model. I'm not buying the highest end of everything. Even my 5-inch drones are still just Rotor Riot CL1 kits that cost $200. So the entire drone, except for the battery and the camera sitting on it, cost me $200. The nice thing about that is if I put it in the ground and destroy the thing, I didn't spend a bunch of money. And it flies okay. It doesn't have to be a $500 drone to fly decently. The CL1 is kind of an outdated design with big old thick arms, but I push it around trees just fine, and it snaps and rolls and everything I need it to do. And my plan is that once I get through a year of FPV, then I'll invest in something nicer. But I want to make sure that I have acquired the skills I can on some suboptimal gear before I get the really nice stuff, and then depend on that advantage. You want the skill you have at this point to be just raw skill, your skill, not the gear you're flying. So, if you've already invested a bunch of money in really nice stuff, that's okay. I understand. I'm not going to say I wouldn't love to have a bunch of nice stuff, but I'm kind of keeping myself held back from it. That way I know what I'm doing is 100% me and not some advantage I'm getting from a piece of hardware. If I can fly it on this stuff, I can pick up just about anything and fly just as well. It's kind of my thought. So don't go out of your way to buy super expensive stuff at this point. And on that note, I've kind of alluded to it. Don't go out of your way to buy 20 drones. You don't need 20 drones right now. You need a couple of really good drones that you can fly. Hopefully you've bought 2 identical drones. That way when you crash number 1, you can just go right to number 2 without having to make a field repair. That's a handy tip. But hopefully you have just a couple of 5-inch drones, maybe a cine whoop, maybe a little tiny whoop for your house. You don't need 15 different 5-inch drones. You don't need to buy every cine whoop available. None of that stuff is a necessity right now. So just focus on your pilot skills, focus less on the hardware. If you're really into building and you just want to build 15 drones, I get that too. I'd love to build 15 drones. I really, really get into the building side of this stuff. I can't knock you there. But buying 15 drones is not going to do anything at this point for your pilot skill that I can tell. So don't waste your money on it if you're on the fence. Just don't think you need something bigger and better just because what you have right now is not exceeding your expectations. Just go out and use it until you get to the point where its expectations meet yours. That's all the insight I have for you from my first 6 months of FPV. I wish you the best in yours. I know that everybody grows at different rates. You may not be able to do your first power loop yet, but you're making progress. So just stick with it. Focus on the pilot skill aspect of the hobby, and you will get better. I promise if you put time and effort into anything, you will acquire the skill. It just takes determination. So go out and do that. I hope to be making more of these talking videos soon. I really hope you enjoyed this talking video. I don't get to do them often enough. I've been really, really busy. If you have enjoyed it and it's been useful to you, make sure to hit that like button. Give me a like so more people will see it. Maybe it'll be useful to them too. And again, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, because I intend to be making at least one weekly flight edit and hopefully more of these talking videos. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. I'm going to go warm up in the car. It is super cold out here. It's Texas, but it's still in the 30s, and I am not comfortable with that. But anyway, until next time, I will catch you later.